and welcome to NTD's special coverage of the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary parade. You're looking live right now at Constitution Avenue in our nation's capital. Parade's scheduled to kick off in a little over an hour. We're expecting remarks from President Donald J. Trump, musical performances, and fireworks. A really exciting evening ahead of us.
That's right, Steve. Festivities kicked off this morning on the National Mall to celebrate the men and women who fought to protect our country and our freedoms. The last major military parade to happen here in Washington, D.C. was in 1991, marking the American and Allied forces' victory in the first Gulf War.
The city has been preparing for weeks, fortifying the roads, getting military assets into place, and putting up security fencing. Thousands of law enforcement officers flown in to help secure today's celebration, which coincides with President Trump's birthday. And NTD will be following the entire event from start to finish.
And we have a lot to cover tonight, but first let's go to NTD's Paul Graney. He's in the parade viewing area where people have already been gathering since early this afternoon. Paul, what's it like over there right now on Constitution Avenue?
That's right. We're here on Constitution Avenue where everyone we've spoken with is eagerly waiting the start of the parade. If you can't tell, it's kind of hot here today. We are delighted to be joined by retired Colonel Darren Gobb. He served in the Army as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot and a battalion commander, and he's also a respected geopolitical strategist. Colonel Gobb, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Paul. What a pleasure to be here. I mean, you've heard about the thousands of people who said they were going to come, and they're here. There are many thousands of them. They're continuing to come. You can hear the festive environment behind us. People are excited, and even though many have heard the forecasts and said, hey, we think there might be some rain, that's not stopping anybody.
That's right. Darren, you served in the Army for almost 30 years. How do you feel on a day like today?
Well, today's a significant day, absolutely. It's worth celebrating this country. And it's worth celebrating the Army, because the Army is a representation of what this nation is and everything that we fought for since its inception. So I'm excited to be here. It's a little bit more humid than my taste from Montana, but I'll be all right. I'm just excited to see all these people here who are thrilled to be here and just to celebrate an Army birthday, a Flag Day, and the principles that both of those stand for.
Tell us about the message that this parade is sending, not just to the American people, but perhaps around the world.
Well, America is still America. We love to get together. We love to celebrate our country. We know what truth, liberty, and freedom are. We want to come together and make sure that basically we have a giant party in recognition of that most important of birthdays. And people here are wearing everything you can possibly imagine, showing their patriotism. And the Army is a reflection of American culture and American society. And the people here are here to recognize that.
Colonel, you've either flown or driven most of the heavy equipment that we're going to see here in the parade. Talk to us about the impact that equipment has had, not just on American forces, but on our allies around the world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my aircraft that I flew was a Black Hawk helicopter. When you see that flying by and it looks good for now, that aircraft is in multiple nations like Australia and others who have recognized that America makes a very superior quality of equipment for its military. So the Black Hawk is one example, the Chinook helicopter is another, the tank that's inspired the German Leopard, the British Centurion, the Israeli Merkava, and others. It all started here in America, where it should start.
We spoke yesterday, we were looking at the forecast, we thought it was a little bit overcast. What do you think of the chances of all of the equipment getting a flyout today?
Well, from what I'm seeing right now and the fact that I can look above your shoulder and see a helicopter up probably around 2,000 feet or so, right now it's looking pretty good, and I anticipate they're going to be able to fly unless something drastically changes. But people are going to get a show here, and I can't wait for them to see every bit of it, ground and air.
How about the people that are always in our memories? We're always thinking about MIA, POW.
Right.
How about saying a word to that today?
We should never forget those who are still missing. By the way, the Army still has an office where they are focused and dedicated on finding them and recovering them, regardless of which war they were in. That happens right here in the Pentagon, and it needs to continue until we recover every single American from every battlefield around the world. That's important. Also, just across the way here in Arlington, Virginia, of course, my first duty assignment in the Army, 3rd U.S. Infantry, the Old Guard, lies Arlington Cemetery. And that's a testament to how much people believe in the freedom and liberty this nation stands for.
Darren, Colonel, we have about 30 seconds. Talk about the impact that this parade may have on recruitment for the Army.
Well, we've seen a drastic upturn in recruiting. In fact, you probably saw the reports this morning that the Army met its goals months early. And that's a testament to many things. But it's important for people here to see the equipment, the soldiers, everything that represents the Army and the military in general, and understand that that's a representation of America, and the military can't happen without Americans willing to serve.
Colonel Bob, thank you so much. We're going to come straight back to you. Right now, we're going to go back to the studio.
All right, Paul, thanks for braving the heat out there with Colonel Gobb, and we'll be checking back in with you again later in the show. There's still a lot more to come this evening, but the celebration kicked off early this morning. Crowds gathered on the National Mall to get an up-close look at the Army's combat gear.
Yeah, Tiff, and service members tell NTD the value of bridge building within the community, leaving Americans with a better sense of knowledge and pride for the men and women protecting our nation in uniform. NTD's Melina Wisecup tells us more.
Thousands of patriotic Americans lined the National Mall to join morning festivities as service members brought U.S. Army pride to the nation's capital.
Happy birthday, Army!
That's a big milestone. It's really big. So to be able to see how far we've come from where we used to be as a military to where we are today, it's 100% worth the celebration.
Bright and early, servicemen showcased their strength with an Army fitness competition. The kids got some training of their own with climbing and rock walls.
It was just a sea of service members in their ACUs and their uniforms, and it was just really, really cool to see how many people serve and just be able to recognize them for their time. And
folks got a chance to interact with soldiers, Army astronauts, NFL representatives, and Medal of Honor recipients.
When you walk around and meet all the soldiers out here, we all come from different walks of life, all very different backgrounds, and so coming out here showing that we have a shared purpose and common goal is just really great, and seeing the team out here putting their best foot forward and just showing the public what we have to offer makes me really proud.
Army members emphasized the importance of bringing their hard work behind the scenes into the light, inspiring and instilling the next generation with the pride that comes with protecting our nation.
I hope that maybe people are a little bit more confident in the Army.
A sentiment echoed by an Iraq veteran who brought his family along to soak in the festivities.
To celebrate this on the 250th anniversary is pretty significant for me and for my friends, my fellow soldiers that I was in Iraq with.
And people here at the festival get a unique opportunity of getting up close and personal with this military equipment.
I came in, I saw helicopters, I wanted to go over there. I saw a bunch of infantrymen on the way. And then I met this special forces guy from my hotel on the way here, and he gave me a challenge going. And then that was really exciting.
Helicopters, military firearms, grenade launchers, and a military howitzer, all on display for engaging opportunities to learn what it's like to handle gear that's used on the battlefield.
There's so many things. There's over 250 jobs. And it can be great opportunities for you. You can get college out of it. You meet best friends I've ever had are all from the Army. Just how awesome of an opportunity it can be.
Those at the event emphasized the importance of recognizing and respecting the role the U.S. Army plays in protecting our freedoms here at home.
Everyone should be here. It doesn't matter if Trump or Kamala, whoever you voted for, I feel everyone should be here to support our troops because they're the reasons why we have our freedoms.
But if you see some of the faces here, I mean, they're the age of my kids and some of them grandkids, in fact, and I see their heart and their love. Gonna tear up. Love for this nation, so I appreciate it.
After the festival, tanks and thousands of soldiers will march through the streets of Washington, D.C. The parade will start at 6:30 this evening, right next to the Lincoln Memorial. They'll head down Constitution Avenue toward the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and pass by the Constitution Gardens. The parade will then cut through the National Mall between the Ellipse and Washington Monument before ending near the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Helicopters and warplanes will fly overhead. Some 200,000 people are expected to attend. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
What a fascinating look there, Tiffany, of how the parade is really serving the purpose to inspire the next generation of service members, as well as, young and old, really.
Really is. You really felt the love for this country and especially the service members who protect our freedoms.
Indeed. We're also joined right now in studio here with our guests. We have with us a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Chuck DeVore. He's the Chief National Initiatives Officer at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And we're also joined by former President Trump attorney Christina Bobb. She began her legal career in the United States Marine Corps. And it's great to have you both here with us. It's really an honor to have you both, Chuck. Right now, let's talk about the heavy artillery weaponry that we're seeing out there. A lot of the cool toys, as you might say. More than a dozen M1 Abrams tanks are out there. Some 6,600 soldiers right now getting ready in place. What does this parade mean for not just Americans, but also for Army veterans such as yourself?
Well, first of all, it's been way too long since we've had a celebration like this. I mean, 1991, really? I mean, come on. Show us some love every now and then. This is the 250th anniversary of the founding of the Army. It's the Army's 250th birthday. The Army was created before we even had a nation. It was created some 13 months before we declared our independence. And if it wasn't for the Army, of course, we'd probably still be a colony of England, right? Imagine how history would have been different. So for me, this is something that Americans should celebrate. Every single person in the armed forces today is a volunteer. They have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that means something, right? They're putting their lives on the line voluntarily. It doesn't matter who the commander-in-chief is. They're serving America. And so when I see a parade like that, I know that, having been a soldier for some 24 years, I know that most of the soldiers are pretty excited about it, and they're going to look back and think it's cool. There'll be a few, wisecracking, like, why are we here, and could have had a, better weekend, taken some time off or something. But the vast majority of them are absolutely thrilled to be here, and I think it's going to be a real patriotic display.
Actually, Christina, before we dive into today's shows, I want to congratulate you on your new book that's available for pre-order, Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. The president actually wrote the foreword to that, so very exciting.
Thank you. I'm very excited for it to come out.
And then, stepping back a little bit, as a Marine, how are you viewing today's festivities?
We can be friends on birthdays. I support the Army. In military tradition, birthdays are very, very important. I know in the Marine Corps, our birthday, November 10th, is hammered into us, and it's something we take great pride in. And so it's fun to join my soldier brethren out here today to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday. And I think it's great. I know how important it is. I know how much service members are proud of their birthday. So I think it's great to kind of bring the entire nation in to get to join in those festivities. Because the Army celebrates it every year. And the Marine Corps celebrates it every year. And we take pride in our history, like internally every year. So it's fun to kind of invite the public to celebrate that as well.
Now, of course, we heard from on-the-ground people who are attending this, the excitement and the love for this country, but we are also hearing reports of protests across the nation, of course, following the riots or earlier unrest in Los Angeles. Given that, how are you viewing the parade today and what message that sends to Americans?
I think it's a message of strength, and I very much appreciate President Trump's determination to have the parade, because it is fun. You see the people out on the mall and they're interacting with the static displays of the equipment and getting to participate with some of the soldiers out there today and just really enjoying the fun. You see the kids light up saying, "Oh, I got a challenge coin." That's really fun. And it's a fun, lighthearted, proud way to remind everybody of our strength. And especially for those people who are protesting, you can say, "Oh, yeah, okay." But just remember what we've got. Not that I'm saying anything needs to be used, but it's just a reminder of where we're at as a nation, and that our entire military, the Army, Marine Corps, all of the branches, it's all volunteer, and it's huge. It's massive. So the fact that we have so many people who voluntarily signed up to be a part of the military, I think it's important to celebrate it today and make everybody watch.
Speaking of strength, Christina, President Trump often talks about peace through strength. Right now, we're obviously in a very volatile place in terms of not our nation, but the world right now on edge with what we see in the Middle East. What message do you think this display of American might and military strength sends to our adversaries, particularly Iran and China?
I think, President Trump is the master, right? Master of the art of the deal, and he's got several deals that he's negotiating with peace-wise around the world at the moment. And I think this is part of it, to just let the world watch us celebrate ourselves and say, we're proud of who we are, we're proud of our military, we're proud of how strong we are, and we're not afraid to take anybody on. We don't want to take anybody on. We want this to be a fun, family-friendly celebration, but if you mess with us, we will. And I hope that's the message that the enemy is taking right now.
And on that note, Chuck, you mentioned how it's been too long since the last time we had this celebration, right? 1991. Now, what do you make of the timing of today's parade, given Trump's current foreign policy priorities?
Well, it's kind of serendipitous, right? I mean, we knew that the president wanted to do this. This is a lead-in to the 250th anniversary of the nation next year. So you might just call this an opening act to what will be, I think, a string of patriotic festivities. But from a geostrategic standpoint, I think the timing is pretty propitious, because when you look at the fact that you have a lot of unrest around the world, and then you have this magnificent display of American unity and strength that will be broadcast all over the world, I think that that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because wars will sometimes happen when potential enemies sense a weakness, and this projects strength, and I would rather have peace through strength than war through weakness.
Of course, we have a lot more to get through tonight, a lot of festivities ahead. But in just a minute, NTD's Kevin Hogan will walk us through the major moments in the Army's 250 years of history. Stay with us for that and much more when we come back.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth, without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com, and for a limited time, get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed, or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
And we are less than an hour away from the Army's 250th anniversary parade, the first one to take place right here in D.C. since 1991. You're looking live right at Constitution Ave, where the parade is set to begin. And over the years, the Army has actually played a key role in defining the will, character, and spirit of our great nation. NTD's Kevin Hogan and Tiffany Meier put this into perspective for us with a special segment on the valor and honor of this foundational force.
The U.S. Army, from colonial patriots to modern warriors, has defended liberty at home and abroad for 250 years.
Its legacy is built on valor and honor.
Kevin, let's march through this proud history, starting with independence from Great Britain.
Yeah, it was 1775 when the Continental Army was born and the Revolutionary War started. The British had the most powerful army in the world. They had warm cottages in cities, whereas the Americans, many of them were just volunteer troops and some just farmers, and they were camped out in hand-built huts in the woods and during brutal winters, but they won, and that's because they had the grit and tactical resilience. They believed in the cause of liberty, and it was this man, George Washington, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, that led Americans to decisive victory. Here he's famously seen crossing the Delaware River, and it was that courage and bravery that would define the service in the centuries that followed, Tiff.
And then comes, of course, the War of 1812, which inspired the Star-Spangled Banner. This conflict is also known as the Second War of Independence.
Yes, and it was this flag that was flown over Fort McHenry in the pivotal Battle of Baltimore. And the defending Army soldiers were outnumbered 5-1 when the British Navy pummeled the fort all night with over 1,500 exploding mortar shells and rockets. And it was the rockets' red glare that allowed Francis Scott Key to see this flag and know that the British hadn't taken the fort. Thus his poem, which became the lyrics to our national anthem.
And speaking of Home of the Brave, the Civil War introduced the Medal of Honor. Soldiers fought valiantly here in part to end slavery, the preservation of the Union, and of course, a war for freedom.
Yes, what you're looking at right here is a bronze tip of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. It was one of the first black regiments to serve in the Civil War, and it led the charge on Fort Wagner outside Charleston, South Carolina. An African-American Army Sergeant, William Carney, saw the flag bearer being shot down, and he went to retrieve the flag, marched it forward, and planted it on the parapet despite multiple serious wounds. And for that valiant service, he won the Medal of Honor. And this war demonstrated that the Army was not just a force for defense, but also for justice and national renewal.
And then comes a shift marked by U.S. military intervention abroad, because in 1917, the U.S. entered World War I.
Yes, seeking more than just victory, President Woodrow Wilson said that the world must be made safe for democracy. In the major Meuse-Argonne offensive in France, Army Sergeant Earl Davis Gregory, shown right here, grabbed a rifle and a mortar shell, and he advanced alone ahead of the infantry, capturing a machine gun and 3 German soldiers, and then kept going, capturing a howitzer and entering a dugout, and single-handedly captured 19 more German soldiers. And it was his tactical brilliance and courage that earned him the Medal of Honor. And this victory cemented the American Army as a modern industrialized force capable of global engagement.
And from World War I, the U.S. emerged as a significant world power. Then came World War II. So much heroism here, Kevin, from the U.S. Army.
Oh, absolutely. This was a war for freedom over tyranny and fascism. The Army was indispensable in turning the tide. In the Battle of the Bulge, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, shown right here, commanded the 101st Airborne. The Nazis had surrounded the Belgian town of Bastogne and had it under siege, and the Americans were outnumbered, they were inexperienced, battle fatigued, and low on supplies. Then the German commander gave McAuliffe a surrender ultimatum, and McAuliffe famously wrote back simply, "nuts." Then the bombing assault began. The Americans didn't give in, and this just showed that, this was just pure perseverance right here. And then General Patton right here, his tanks arrived, eventually lifted the siege. And here you see General Patton giving McAuliffe a Distinguished Service Cross for his heroism.
Now, the Korean War was not a clear win, but South Korea today enjoys freedom to this day as a result.
Yes, that's right. The American Army soldiers fighting the communists faced some hard-fought battles. These were intense combat conditions, many casualties, and brutal winters, but that did not stop them from maintaining discipline and adapting to a challenging and often shifting battlefield. It demonstrated that the Army was ready for the defense of democratic allies under international cooperation.
Now, along that same vein, the U.S. sought to contain the spread of communism in Southeast Asia in the Vietnam War. Some extraordinary courage here, Kevin.
Yeah, as you can see, soldiers fought in dense jungles, very rugged conditions, grueling terrain, under constant guerrilla threat of the Viet Cong. Then Army Staff Sergeant Melvin Morris breached enemy lines, retrieved a fallen soldier, and single-handedly took down a force that pinned down his battalion and made it back safely, even being shot 3 times. So this helped the Army understand unconventional warfare.
Now, decades later, the terrorist attack of 9/11 changed the world, and in connection with the Afghanistan war, 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden was taken out in Pakistan.
Yes, it was the Army's 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment that provided transport and cover for the SEALs who took him out. And they flew stealth-modified UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters similar to the one shown here, deep into hostile enemy territory with radio communications at a minimum at night, with no moonlight, using night vision goggles, flying over mountains, being undetected by radar. And it was the Army's ability that we see in this mission to carry out missions in which there is no margin for error.
And the U.S. Army, and specifically the 160th, still conducts counterterrorism operations in many countries around the world to this day.
Yes, and what we've shown you here are just a few notable examples of the American Army's prowess and their tradition of valiant and honorable service.
And all of this serves as the foundation for today's 250th anniversary parade.
Well, there you have it. Some major moments in the United States Army's 250 years of service and history. And in less than 1 hour, a parade to celebrate that storied history will kick off right here in Washington, D.C. along Constitution Avenue. And from what we're told, the President of the United States has already left the White House to make his way down to that parade. In the meantime, let's come back to our in-studio guests, where we have Chuck DeVore and Christina Bobb.
And Chuck, when we, think back to the Army's founding, what strikes you most about those early soldiers, what they were up against and what they were trying to convey?
Yeah, I mean, they were up against long odds. I mean, first of all, we didn't have a very good system to pay soldiers or to get equipment or even to get gunpowder and basic necessities. We didn't really have a federal government. It was very difficult to borrow money. We were reliant on a few wealthy, patriotic Americans, the charity from a few other countries that decided to help out, often after we won a battle or something like that. And we had to build an army from scratch. So we had plenty of volunteers in the militia. And oh, by the way, the Loyalists had just as many people fighting for the crown. In fact, most of the casualties were between the Loyalists and the militia, not between the Redcoats and the Continental soldiers. But the Continental soldiers were absolutely necessary because they provided the disciplined spine that allowed there to be consistent military operations. And so it was very difficult. That winter at Valley Forge especially was very formative. Brutal conditions, not enough food, a lot of exposure to cold. The boots were wearing out, the clothing was threadbare, and Congress wasn't able to raise the money for it. So it was a very nearly run thing because we just didn't have the resources to properly fund the military until very late in the conflict.
And Christina, George Washington, obviously the founder of the nation, it's a very fitting situation to have this parade kicking off right in front of the Washington Monument after Washington really setting a precedent for civilian control of the United States military, which has lasted 250 years. What kind of foundation do you think that George Washington laid down for military leadership in the United States?
Well, I think the whole idea of civilian control was incredibly profound, especially for someone who was a warrior, right? And why I think it's so important is because when you're training for war day in, day out, you're training for war, you're building your skills, you're proud of your skills, you're proud of what you built, and you become this efficient warfighter. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so you're like, oh, I know how to solve this problem. I can solve it, through my skills that I've learned as a warfighter, meaning creating war. But obviously, we don't want someone who's, very disposed to use those type of skill sets to solve problems. We want our problems solved through civility and through statesmanship and through diplomacy. And I think that's why it's important to have civilian leadership at the head of the military. And I think Pete Hegseth does a great job with that because he has served in the military and he does have the background to be able to relate to the warfighters and to understand their mentality and what they need. But he's been removed from it enough to kind of remember what civilians want, which is peace. We want peace, that's the goal. And so I think that was just really incredibly profound of George Washington to recognize that penchant of people who are constantly training to want to use those skills and say, yeah, it's great that we have this weapon, but let's not make the weapon in charge of whether we use it or not. So yeah, I think it was an amazing insight of our founding fathers.
And Christina, digging into some of the values here, you know, the Revolutionary War wasn't just a war over taxes, it was a fight for freedom of belief, self-rule, and all those founding ideals. In your view, how does the Army today really embody those values?
Well, I think anybody who signs up for the military, and I will assume it's somewhat similar for the Marine Corps as it is for the Army, you have to run through the risks of, you know, potential war breaking out while you're serving. And anybody who signs up recognizes that there's one sacrifice by going through the training and doing the hard work and becoming what the country wants you to be. And then there's the other potential sacrifice of actually getting deployed and using your skills and, you know, being sent far away from home and being separated from your family and all of the sacrifice that comes with being a military member. And you don't know what cost you're going to have to pay when you sign up. You don't know how long you're going to be gone, and you don't know how it's going to impact your family. And so I think bravery and courage and selflessness are inherent in the decision for anybody who actually, you know, enlists or, you know, becomes an officer in the first place.
And right now we are taking a live look there at Constitution Ave, where the parade we're hearing could start a little bit earlier. Leave it to the Army to be on time, that's for sure. Chuck, when you think about soldiers in the United States Army throughout history, what values do you see at the core of their fight, and how those values really carry through the Army's history?
Yeah, I think there was this very interesting interview that was done in the early 1800s with this really old veteran of the Revolutionary War. And I'm going to paraphrase this very loosely, but they asked him, well, why did you fight? And he just said, we believed that we always governed ourselves, and they didn't believe that we should, right? So at the end of the day, it came down to your ability to self-govern, to have your own liberty, your own freedom. Now, for individuals, of course, there's a whole broad reason, right? People may seek adventure, they may seek steady employment. When actual combat happens, of course, and thank God, you know, I never had to experience that. The closest I came was, you know, a little bit before the invasion in Panama on the streets of LA during the LA riots in 1992. But the fact is that once the bullets start flying, you're fighting for your buddies, right? You are fighting for your team, because those are the people who are your immediate universe that you have to rely on and you count on to get through the hellscape that you're going through. So there are a variety of reasons. I know that in my own case, I enlisted first in February 1983. Ronald Reagan was president. We had a resurgence of patriotism. And I thought, hey, I'm able-bodied. I, played sports in high school. I've still got both my eyes and both my kidneys. I could join the Army. And I'm too tall to be in the Air Force anyway. My eyes were already going bad, so they took me. And 24 years later, I made a career of being a citizen soldier.
Now, on that note, Chuck, as the festivities do begin and kick off today, if those first soldiers who were at Bunker Hill or Saratoga could look ahead 250 years and see this parade happening today, what do you think would surprise or maybe reassure them about where the Army has gone?
Well, I mean, first of all, they would see the flag. And of course, the flag was officially christened, I think, 2 years after the Army was. So there was this proliferation of early flags. But they'd see the flag and they'd immediately would recognize it and say, hey, that's the American flag. Well, look at that. Look at this amazing equipment. Look at how disciplined these soldiers are. Look at how magnificently equipped they are. I think that they would be very impressed, and they would think, wow, we did that. We set the foundation for that. I think they'd be very proud and quite pleased at having kicked all that into motion.
And right now, the pre-programming appears to be ready to kick off any moment. We're going to be keeping a very close eye on that as you see the crowd starting to gather right there at Constitution Ave, where they're That's a different angle, a different view. That looks like it might be right behind the Lincoln Memorial, where they're coming over from Virginia, marching over to get into place from Virginia. The parade, as far as we can tell, has not officially kicked off as of yet. There's a look at the stage right there, where we will likely see President Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, address the nation. And there you have the Joint Chiefs, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Daniel Kane, coming out. And if he's going to speak, we will bring you to him. And we're going to tune in right now and bring you the live look right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Pete Hegseth. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, accompanied by the Second Lady of the United States, Usha Vance, and their 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor America, would you please rise for the singing of our national anthem?
So gallantly stood. Before we even had a country, we had an army.
They started as a small, unorganized group of shop owners and farmers, but they fought the most powerful army in the entire world to a standstill in Concord, Lexington, and Bunker Hill.
Then our Continental Congress chose George Washington as general of our Continental Army.
But it wasn't until 1 year later, on July 4th, 1776, that news arrived of the signing of our Declaration of Independence.
Now we had a new army and a new nation.
With little gunpowder, no shoes, bloody feet, few cannons, little training, and even less food.
Valley Forge started in December. They went into winter camp in December of 1777. Approximately 2,000 Americans died that winter of disease.
They lived through hell, but they never ever gave up. Not this army, not this first American army.
Finally, Washington and his army arrived. Here at Yorktown, where they had General Cornwallis and his powerful British army trapped in this city against the sea.
All of the preparation that Washington has learned through the course of those 6.5 years meets its full force here at Yorktown, and he employs it brilliantly.
Sailing from the Caribbean, the French Navy arrived and took on the British fleet.
Washington decided to make his move. Our men began digging to get closer and closer to the fort, finally getting within rifle and cannon range. Naturally, George Washington chose to set off our first cannon shot.
The British had two small forts in front of the main fort. They were called Redoubts 9 and 10.
Then, on the moonless night of October 14, the American and French forces attacked the redoubts. The hand-to-hand combat with bayonets, knives, and fists was bloody, to say the least. But within an hour, we were victorious.
And as the sun came up the next day, Cornwallis looked out and realized he was in serious trouble. So he prepared an all-out, desperate counterattack.
It didn't work, and the British were forced to surrender.
We were supposed to lose to the best army and the largest and most professional navy in the world.
But our young army had won the war and our freedom, the freedom we hold so dear. And 250 years later, for what started as a ragtag group of shop owners, has now become the most powerful army in the world.
Today, many things are very different from that army here at Yorktown, but one thing remains the same. An undying passion, guts, and love for our country remains deep in the heart of today's Army. When I look into their faces, you can see it. That will never change. God bless the United States Army, and God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, our parade is officially underway. Up first, internationally renowned as one of the world's finest professional music organizations, the United States Army Band, Pershing Zone. They are the premier music organization of the U.S. Army, our nation's most senior service. Stationed at Joint Base Meier, Henderson Hall, Virginia, it plays an important musical role in events of national and international significance. They were founded back in 1922 by Army Chief of Staff John J. Pershing. They're led today by Colonel Bruce R. Pulver and Drum Major Rob Moore. Today, Pershing Zone is playing a melody entitled The Army Goes Rolling Along. This was actually written in 1908 by the then Lieutenant Edmund Louis Snitz Gruber, which was a descendant of Franz Gruber, who composed Silent Night. It was originally written to be the 5th Artillery Regimental song titled The Caissons Go Rolling Along, and in 1956 the lyrics were revised by Harold Arberg as the official song of the U.S. Army, and then retitled The Army Goes Rolling Along. Pershing Zone carries on its century-old legacy, playing a march that brings pride to every soldier, the Army Song. The 3rd Infantry Regiment, the oldest active duty unit in the U.S. Army. Established back in 1784, the unit was dubbed the Old Guard by Major General Winfield Scott during a victory parade in Mexico City after the Mexican War. It is the U.S. Army's official ceremonial unit and presidential escort, conducting year-round tactical training to ensure the highest standards and utmost discipline of its soldiers. The unit routinely represents the U.S. Army and our nation in official ceremonies, major sporting events, and their own, the U.S. Army's own Twilight Tattoo. The Old Guard also maintains 24-hour vigil of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, while also conducting funeral services honoring our fallen heroes in Arlington National Cemetery. The regiment's 50 campaign streamers stand as a testament to its long, faithful service to our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. In 1775, the shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord sparked a revolution, uniting 13 colonies and forging a continental army from farmers and frontiersmen. Against the odds, they turned the tide at Trenton and Saratoga, survived Valley Forge, and at Yorktown forced a British surrender, securing independence and giving birth to the United States of America. Before radios and field phones, sound was the signal. In the Continental Army, fifes and drums carried commands across the chaos of battle, telling soldiers when to advance, when to retreat, eat, even when to rest. That legacy actually lives on today with the U.S. Army Fife and Drum Corps, part of the 3rd Infantry Regiment known as the Old Guard. Founded back in 1960, they're the only unit of their kind in the armed forces. Performing in uniforms patterned after those worn by General Washington's musicians. Playing period instruments with patriotic precision, they bring history to life, sharing the sound and spirit of the Revolution through more than 500 performances each year, both at home and around the world, too. The Old Guard, Fife and Drum Corps, everybody. And now, from high above, ladies and gentlemen, celebrating 250 years, your United States Army parachute team, the Golden Knights. Descending at over 120 miles an hour, the Golden Knights are using flexible wing gliders to maintain their formation. They open their main canopy simultaneously and negotiate the softest possible landing. I'll tell you, they can't hear you, but they sure can see you. You can give them a great big wave, ladies and gentlemen. The Golden Knights, the finest parachuting team in the world. Fort Sumter in 1861, a nation divided. Over 4 brutal years, nearly 2 million soldiers fought to preserve the Union. Among them, 5 future presidents and the first recipients of a brand new military decoration, the Medal of Honor. With independence won, our nation's westward expansion began. The Army moved in step, guarding settlers as native scouts lit the way. Immigrants joined the cause, and the Buffalo Soldiers etched a legacy of grit and honor across the American frontier. As they march by, a soldier's uniform signals their duty, their role, and their readiness. And by the late 1850s, official regulations outlined distinct looks, shaping the Army's identity and function across the force. Soldiers were issued 2 coats. One, a short sack coat for work and battle, with brass buttons and colored trim that marked their rank. Well, by war's end, that rugged sack coat became the soldier's uniform of choice. As the war escalated, volunteer enlistment surged. Congress authorized support for a force of up to 500,000 new troops, answering the call to preserve the Union. As they march by, representing the Civil War era of our nation's history, is the 4th Infantry Division based out of Fort Carson, Colorado. From Fort Cavazos, Texas, home of legends, the 1st Cavalry Division rides with pride. Born from the thunder of horse cavalry traditions of the Civil War, the 1st team forged its reputation on the front lines of history. They stormed Manila with the flying column, charged into Pyongyang as the first to breach the line and face the brutal crucible of Ia Drang, the first of 13 named campaigns in Vietnam where they proved their mettle. Today, that same warrior spirit lives on. You'll know the name, and you'll know them by their iconic cav hats, elite soldiers, and cutting-edge equipment. Tough, fit, fearless. The 1st Cavalry Division is a lethal, disciplined force that stands ready to fight and win anywhere, anytime, and the legacy rides on. This is the Cav. Special thanks to our sponsor, Lockheed Martin. In 1914, years of escalating competition between European alliances culminate in the outbreak of the First World War. The 2 sides engage in a savage war of attrition, defined by opposing trenches, barbed wire, poison gas, and mass casualties. The United States initially maintained its neutrality, but was eventually drawn into the conflict in 1917. Despite having less than 130,000 soldiers at the beginning, the Army eventually grew to over 4 million, with nearly 2 million soldiers serving in Europe. In 6 months of fighting, nearly 50,000 Americans lost their lives, with another 190,000 wounded. The guns fell silent with the armistice of November 11, 1918. We continue on with more USA World War I rolling stock. This 1918 Dodge touring car was part of the legendary 1919 Transcontinental Convoy. 3,251 miles and 62 grueling days across the Lincoln Highway. And remember, no pavement, no GPS, and no power steering. Just grit, determination, and the drive to push Army mobility into the future. This car literally helped pave the way for the roads we rely on today, and reminds us when the Army moves, the nation follows. The 1918 Dodge touring car. Headquartered in New York, this is the 42nd Infantry Division Band. At the start of World War I, the 42nd Infantry Division was formed with troops from 27 National Guard units, stretching across the country like a rainbow. Composed of skilled musicians from all walks of life and professional occupations, they perform a variety of musical genres. Though their mission is primarily a musical one, the members were ordered into active federal service back in 2004 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. The band has also served in support of numerous state active duty missions, including cleanup efforts following Hurricane Sandy, distribution support during COVID-19, and recently, support for New York State Corrections. Commanded by Chief Warrant Officer 2 Ethan Wagner and led by Drum Major Sergeant First Class Drew Gans, the band is performing Over There, written in 1917 by Broadway composer and recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal George M. Cohan. Representing the World War I era is the 82nd Airborne Division, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You'll notice the unit is wearing replica World War I uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. When the Americans entered the Great War, our soldiers, under the command of General Blackjack Pershing, hit the trenches in the new standard. It was the olive drab winter service uniform. Now on their heads you'll see a steel helmet with sand-textured paint built to deflect deadly shrapnel from above. Not bulletproof, but battle tough. Nicknamed the Pershing boot, on their feet was the M918 1918 French boot. It was designed to survive the brutal grind of trench warfare. And on their backs, the field pack, rations, ammo, first aid, and a gas mask. Everything a doughboy needed to fight and to win. Incidentally, the 42nd Infantry Division was deployed to heavy combat abroad and then deployed again in World War II, ultimately liberating the Dachau concentration camp. The 42nd responded to the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Later, with the war on terrorism, the rainbow stretched across the world again, deploying in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thundering into view, the pride of Fort Sill, the U.S. Army Artillery Half Section. This is literally powered by horsepower and heritage. This elite ceremonial unit honors the legacy of the Army's horse-drawn artillery. With precision, discipline, and 6 majestic horses pulling a vintage 1918 caisson, the half section keeps tradition alive and rolling strong. Representing the power, pride, and precision of America's field artillery, this is Fort Sill's finest, ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks to our sponsor, Form Energy. World War II, a global fight for freedom. In history's darkest hour, the United States Army was on the front lines. From the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, the greatest generation faced down tyranny and turned the tide. From bombers to fighters to transports, U.S. Army aircraft started to thunder across the skies in World War II. And take a look up there, ladies and gentlemen. Flying overhead right now. They are fast, they are fierce, and famously used in the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. Leading up front, the mighty B-25 Mitchell. Up next, the Cadillac of the sky, the P-51 Mustang. From the sky, we're back down on the ground. In World War II, one vehicle led the charge, the legendary quarter-ton 4x4 command recon vehicle, the Jeep. You might have a Jeep in your driveway, but not like this. The U.S. Army truck quarter-ton 4x4 command reconnaissance, better known as the Jeep, was an iconic vehicle of World War II and was the world's first mass-produced four-wheel drive vehicle. The Army used the Jeep for almost every military activity, including command vehicles, scout cars, and medical ambulances. Fast, rugged, the Jeep became a symbol of American ingenuity. From Fort Bragg, North Carolina, this is the 82nd Airborne Ceremonial Band. The 82nd received the nickname All-Americans after a contest as it represented the diverse origins of its members from every state. This name remains today symbolized by their iconic AA patch. Fort Bragg's finest, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a big round of applause, the 82nd Airborne Ceremonial Band. In a global fight like World War II, the U.S. Army knew our troops needed more than courage. They needed innovation. Uniforms evolved for every environment, but olive drab remained the mark of the American soldier. Shaped by lessons from the trenches of World War I, the Army introduced two battlefield essentials: the M1 helmet, tough, stable, and built to protect under fire, and the M1 Garand rifle, powerful and fast. It gave American troops a very clear edge. General George S. Patton called the M1 rifle the greatest battle implement ever designed, and history proved him right. The 82nd Airborne Division. The unit is best known for their bravery on D-Day, when 12,000 parachute and glider troops destroyed German supply lines after fighting for 33 days straight. The 101st Airborne Division, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, traces its lineage back to 1918 when it first established as the 101st Division. Known for their ability to rapidly deploy across the world, the unit has held a crucial role in operations since its inception. From parachuting behind enemy lines on D-Day to leading helicopter assaults in Vietnam, the 101st redefined modern warfare. In the 50s, the Screaming Eagles stood tall at home, protecting the Little Rock Nine during the fight for civil rights. In recent decades, they've been sent across the world with stints as far as the Middle East, where they took part in Operation Desert Storm and participated extensively in the war on terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Screaming Eagles continue to lead the way as tomorrow's division in today's Army. The iconic Sherman tank is here, ladies and gentlemen. It was the cornerstone of the U.S. Armed Forces, showing its military might in World War II. It became one of the most influential tank designs of the 20th century. The M4 tank was nicknamed the Sherman tank after Civil War General William Tecumseh Sherman. Actually, it was named by the British. With almost 50,000 produced during World War II, the Sherman tank was in active service until 1957. In World War II, the M16 half-track was a force to be reckoned with. It was a self-propelled anti-aircraft weapon with speed, firepower, and grit. Nicknamed the Meat Chopper, its quad 50 caliber mount could unleash 2,300 rounds a minute. Quite devastating. It served through Korea, Vietnam, and beyond, and remains in use in U.S. allies to this day. The M16 half-track brings the fight wherever it rolls. The U.S. Army Transportation Corps motto states, "Nothing happens until something moves." That was never more true than with this. Look at this, the 2.5-ton Chevrolet Deuce and a Half. It moved up to 10,000 pounds of cargo and was the backbone of the Red Ball Express that kept the Allies supplied after D-Day in World War II. The Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, began on June 25, 1950, with the North Korean Army's invasion of South Korea. A coalition of South Korea, the United States, and other United Nations members defeated the invasion and advanced into North Korea. The coalition fought and defeated 2 Chinese offensives in the spring of 1951. Armistice negotiations began shortly after that defeat in July of 1951 until the armistice was signed 2 years later in 1953. Combat consisted of small attacks, raids, and patrolling. During this war, the United States deployed approximately 6.8 million military forces to the Korean Peninsula. Special thanks to our sponsor, Coinbase. The M151 kept rolling along as the lightweight, high-mobility general-purpose vehicle replacing the famed World War II Jeep back in 1961. Officially named the Military Utility Tactical Truck, or MUT, most servicemen generally referred to it as a Jeep. The vehicle spanned more than 40 years in 4 manufacturers and were everywhere that the Army was deployed. Another rolled by earlier, and at 2.5 tons, this Deuce and a Half, the M35A2 classic military transport truck, was a mainstay of the U.S. Army for decades, particularly during the Vietnam War and Operation Iraqi Freedom. The Deuce and a Half proved its value moving cargo, supplies, and soldiers. Its capabilities include up to 5,000 pounds off-road and 10,000 pounds on-road, making it ideal for moving just about anything. In the jungles of Vietnam, the U.S. Army faced a new kind of war. Helicopters became the new workhorses of battle, delivering troops, firepower, and supplies into some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. This is the U.S. Army in Vietnam, the era of air mobility, fierce firefights, and unwavering brotherhood. And over the music marching through, the roar of these legendary Army helicopters takes to the air. Flying overhead right now, they help define the Vietnam War. That staccato beat of the rotor blades was a welcome sound to many troops mired in combat. From transport and medevac to close air support and reconnaissance, they brought the fight to the front and pulled the wounded to safety. The OH-6 Cayuse scouted the terrain with unmatched agility. The AH-1 Cobra, also nicknamed the Snake, brought serious firepower. Its slim design, as you can see here, helped it survive and thrive in hostile environments to protect soldiers below. And the icon of the era, the UH-1 Huey, the first turbine-powered helicopter in service with the U.S. military. There was nothing the Huey couldn't do. General support, air assault, cargo transport, medic evacuation, and ground attack missions. The Cayuse, Cobra, and Huey, ladies and gentlemen, three iconic Army symbols in the sky. The 1st Cavalry Division Band, based out of Fort Cavazos, Texas, has played a vital role in U.S. military history. Since its origins back in 1855 as the band of the 2nd Cavalry, it has supported operations from the Civil War to Desert Storm. Over time, it's evolved into a powerful force using music to strengthen bonds between soldiers and engage with communities. From World War II in Korea to the Vietnam War in Bosnia, the 1st Teen Band has enhanced morale and upheld the division's enduring legacy. Today, the band continues its mission using music to shape perceptions, foster trust, and promote national Army and division interests. Standing ready to serve, it remains an enduring symbol of the 1st Cavalry Division's legacy and commitment to duty. The band performs Hit the Leather and Ride, a march composed by Captain Robert Meredith Wilson. This piece reflects the cavalry's transition from horses to mechanized warfare, capturing the speed, the resilience, and the tradition of the division. From Fort Cavazos, Texas, everybody, the 1st Cavalry Division Band. The U.S. Army deployed large numbers of troops in support of the Vietnam War. The first contingent of U.S. Army advisors arrived in Vietnam in the late 1950s, and that quickly grew to a small team of around 100 soldiers, which then expanded to more than 600 over the next decade. As the war intensified, troops' numbers quickly grew as the war between the South Vietnamese government and the communist insurgents supported by North Vietnam intensified. By January 1969, more than 364,200 soldiers organized around 7 divisions and 20 separate combat brigades. The United States began withdrawing its forces in July of 1969, and the last Army combat unit left South Vietnam in August of '71. The last U.S. combat soldier came home March 1973, while a small number of non-combat personnel remained until April 1975. Representing the Vietnam War era is the 101st Airborne Division based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The unit is wearing replica Vietnam War uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. Blistering heat, thick humidity, and unforgiving terrain demanded uniform innovation, and the Army, they delivered. New lightweight uniforms were constructed to move with the soldier. The M16 replaced the M1 Garand, calling for redesigned ammo gear and faster reloads in combat. Body armor got smarter, jackets and trousers got lighter, and field equipment was reimagined to meet the mission head-on. Gone were the heavy Mickey Mouse boots, replaced by canvas tropical combat boots that offered better grip, faster drying, and all-day endurance. Special thanks to our sponsor, Oracle. When Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990, the U.S. Army deployed to Saudi Arabia to deter further Iraqi aggression in the region for what was known as Operation Desert Shield. By the fall, more than 750,000 troops comprising U.S. service members and coalition partners from more than 30 countries had assembled in the Saudi Arabian desert. In mid-January 1991, the U.S.-led coalition began Operation Desert Storm, which kicked off with an intensive air campaign designed to knock out key Iraqi infrastructure and weaken Iraqi forces. The ground offensive was launched in early 1991, where military forces overwhelmingly destroyed enemy tanks and vehicles. After only 100 hours of ground combat, coalition troops liberated Kuwait, and the Gulf War ended with Iraq's surrender. From Fort Riley, Kansas, this is the 1st Infantry Division, one of the Army's most storied divisions. Nicknamed the Big Red One because of the distinctive red on their unit patch, as the oldest continuously serving division in the U.S. Army, the unit has participated in every major operation since World War I, living up to its motto, no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. The 1st Infantry Division was originally established as the 1st Expeditionary Division in 1917 and spearheaded the American Expeditionary Forces in France during World War I. In World War II, the Fighting First stormed Omaha Beach on D-Day and liberated Nazi concentration camps. The highly decorated unit has had 37 members of the Big Red One awarded the Medal of Honor. In Washington, D.C., the 1st Division Monument stands in President's Park, memorializing those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the Big Red One, the 1st Infantry Division. More military rolling stock. During Operation Desert Storm, the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle proved its value on the battlefield. It is fast, it is tough, and it is lethal. Named for General Omar Bradley, a leader from West Point's famed class of 1916, the Bradley was built to carry troops into combat with protection and power. Armed with a 25mm chain-driven cannon and twin-tube-launched optically tacked wire-guided missiles, it played a critical role in clearing the way during the ground assault into Iraq. While the Paladin looks and sounds like a tank, it is technically a self-propelled howitzer and was first introduced back in the 1960s. Over the years, it's been upgraded to perform in versatile battlefields from Vietnam to the Soviet Union to Iraq. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. The 1st Armored Division, nicknamed Old Ironsides, is the oldest, most recognizable armored division in the United States Army. As part of the buildup for World War II, cavalry and reconnaissance units were brought together to form the 1st Armored Division in 1940. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. Old Ironsides really led the way. During Desert Storm, they engaged in some of the largest tank battles in Army history that were decisive victories, shattering enemy formations. Based in Fort Bliss, Texas, America's Tank Division is currently supporting missions in 20 countries across 5 continents. From World War II to today, Old Ironsides remains battle-proven and always ready. First used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the M119 howitzer brought precision firepower to the front lines. Lighter and more mobile than larger artillery, it was built for the infantry brigade, able to fire high into the air or directly at the target depending on the mission. Whether used in battery formation or as a standalone support weapon, the M119 delivered reliable, responsible fire when it mattered most. Still in service today, including on the front lines in Ukraine, it remains a trusted part of the Army's arsenal. Special thanks to our sponsor, UFC. On September 11, 2001, terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. using commercial airliners. In response, the U.S. launched the global war on terrorism. The U.S. would stop potential threats around the world and take the fight to terrorist groups and the nations that back them. The Army immediately deployed forces to Afghanistan to destroy Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist organization and depose his sponsors, the ruling Taliban. The 2003 President Bush expanded the war to Iraq. Soldiers and other armed services overthrew Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein. The fight to stabilize Iraq and prevent terrorist groups from overthrowing its new government continues to this day. The campaign in Afghanistan lasted until 2021 when U.S. forces withdrew and the Taliban returned to power. Over the course of the two-decade conflict, over 2 million servicemen and women, less than 1% of the American population, deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. Most of those who served were members of the United States Army. The global war on terrorism saw the introduction of a range of new technologies on the battlefield. The 8-wheeled Stryker armored combat vehicle is the first new military vehicle to enter service in the U.S. Army since the Abrams tank back in the 1980s. The vehicle was developed to fill a gap in the Army's inventory between a lighter infantry and heavy armored unit. The Stryker armored combat vehicle enables the team to maneuver in close and urban terrain, plus provide protection in open terrain and transport infantry quickly to critical battlefield positions. The first Stryker vehicles were fielded back in 2002 with the 1st Stryker Brigade combat team deploying to Iraq in 2003. U.S. Army Rangers, predating the Revolutionary War, fought in the War of 1812 as part of the regular Army and patrolled the frontier from Ohio to western Illinois on horseback and by boat, with the likes of Daniel Boone and Abraham Lincoln in their ranks. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Rangers were called upon to lead the way in the global war on terrorism. As part of the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, the 75th Ranger Regiment, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, represents a lethal, agile, and flexible force capable of conducting many complex joint special operations missions. Today's Rangers Regiment is the Army's premier direct action raid force. It is always combat ready, mentally and physically tough, and prepared to fight our country's adversaries. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command is an elite group of individuals trained to lead and succeed in protecting the country from their threats. Composed of 5 units with unique specialties, Special Operations works in small tactical teams, taking on the most challenging and sensitive missions. Military legends to service members and civilians alike, they take on terrorists through quiet guerrilla war-style missions in foreign countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Army's Special Forces. The Stryker Brigade Combat Team combines the capacity for rapid deployment with survivability and tactical mobility. Adaptability and continuous transformation to overcome our enemies is vital. Fighting an elusive enemy in distant places and at home requires new tools such as unmanned aerial vehicles for surveillance and the Blue Force Tracker to see real-time details of troop movements. The United States does not face the challenging international environment alone. Our network of allies and partners is an advantage that our adversaries can never hope to match. Over 80 nations have fought alongside the United States or assisted it during the global war on terrorism. The 10th Mountain Division's climb to glory began with its establishment as the 10th Light Division in July 1943, the only one of its size in the U.S. military to receive specialized training for fighting in mountainous conditions. After periods spent in active as a training division and as a standard infantry division, the unit returned to its roots in 1985 when it regained its Mountain Division designation. In the 1990s, the division participated in numerous humanitarian and peacekeeping operations. During the War on Terrorism, the 10th Mountain Division proved their mettle as light fighters through repeated deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, since 2002, the 10th Mountain Division, based out of Fort Drum, New York, has been the most deployed regular Army unit. Its combat brigades have seen over 20 deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. To show America's military might, they have one purpose: to deter war and, if ordered, defeat the enemies of the United States of America. They are the 10th Mountain Division. Investments in cutting-edge systems, drone technology, and powered capabilities strengthen the force, equipping soldiers with tools they need to protect the country and defend democracy. The Army has 8 Stryker Brigade combat teams, 6 in the active component and 2 in the National Guard. More than 2/3 of the 7,000 servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives fighting the global war on terrorism were part of one of the Army's 3 branches: active duty forces, the Army Reserve, and the Army National Guard. The Army is continuously transforming to deter aggression to ensure our adversaries cannot outrange or outpace us. This transformation is not just about adapting, it's about maintaining dominance, ensuring that America's Army remains unmatched in its speed, flexibility, and ability to support the nation's strategic priorities. Special thanks to sponsor Palantir. Keeping the Army forces battle-ready and nimble makes transportation for the U.S. Army a very vital element. Spread across the parade today, numerous fighting vehicles, some designed for very specific functions and others for flexibility, but they all must be maintained. With over 200,000 trucks alone, wheeled vehicle mechanisms ensure that the fleet of vehicles are ready, and these mechanics get the job done. This convoy starts with the M777, a lightweight howitzer. These lightweight howitzers may not look particularly lightweight, but are made from titanium. They are 7,000 pounds lighter than their predecessor, the old M198. Used by the Army since 2005, the M777 is currently being used in Ukraine. Weighing only 4,700 pounds, the M119 howitzer is smaller and is used by infantry brigades, particularly for air assault missions. It was first used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm in 1991 and is also seeing active use in Ukraine. The 7th Infantry Division, stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, has been seeing continuous combat action ever since activation in World War I. From Europe to the Aleutian Islands, Japan, Korea, Afghanistan, and the Pacific, the Bayonet Division boasts a proud history of answering the call of its motto, "Trust in Me," with resolute dedication. Sent to deployments and conflicts around the globe since it was founded, the division returned to Fort Lewis in 1971, its first time on American soil since 1934. The 7th Division, originally called the Hourglass Division due to their hatch design, gained the nickname Bayonet Division during their deployment to Korea in June of 1950. At Incheon Landing and during the liberation of Seoul, they were credited with plunging the bayonet into the heart of the enemy, with 13 members of the division receiving the Medal of Honor. The 7th enables and sustains the combat readiness of 2 Stryker Brigade combat teams and a Combat Aviation Brigade. With the American soldier, the cornerstone of everything the Army does, we are continuously transforming. Army careers span the spectrum from attorneys to astronauts and mechanics to engineers. The Army's greatest asset is our people, the finest men and women our great nation has to offer, with a myriad of talents that make us stronger. Aside from its people, the Army's next greatest asset is its technology and equipment. Coming up next, these vehicles offer a glimpse of what the Army employs for readiness and battle. The portable howitzers and the portable Abrams tank were used extensively in the Gulf War, along with Bradley tanks and the infantry squad vehicle. The ISB provides enhanced tactical mobility of an infantry brigade combat team. This allows commanders greater freedom of movement and action. The ISB provides the warfighter with increased flexibility to ensure infantry units maintain momentum to achieve mission success. When duty calls, U.S. Army soldiers don't just answer, they lead. From Fort Bragg, witness a powerful demonstration of strength, purpose, and the unmatched capability of today's Army.
The Army has made me see my potential, and I feel like it's molded me into a better person.
I grew up in a very patriotic household. My grandfather, he served in World War II, and his brother, my uncle, served in Vietnam. I can do this. If they can do this, I can do this.
When I was born, my dad was still serving in the military, and him coming home in his uniform, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that.
Ready for takeoff. My motivation, I think it follows in line, I think, with what my family's done is kind of a sense of duty to serve our country and give back since it's given us so much.
I'm a very, let's say, timid person, but definitely helped me become a more confident person.
Working with a group and my peers, it really shows how much working with a team can strengthen you.
All right, ready to go? Ready to go? I derive a lot of purpose from serving others. I think serving something bigger than myself gets me out of bed every day. If you power it up, you power it up.
I definitely pushed myself further than I ever thought I could go.
I joined the military service because I want to deploy. That's my main goal, is deploy, deploy, deploy.
If we get the call, we have to go somewhere, we'll do what needs to be done. That's just the way we operate here.
This is one of the few jobs in the nation where we all take an oath to say, I'm willing to put my life on the line for you, and they're willing to put their life on the line for me.
This is what we train for. This is what I want to do. My team leaders and squad leaders, they know exactly what to do. Check equipment, check weapons, check ammo.
We're always ready to deploy within 18 hours and handle the mission at task. We jump so frequently so that our jump masters and the paratroopers are ready to deploy.
Onboard personnel, stand up! I'm very passionate about being a jump master. The paratroopers, they see you and, you know, they believe in you. I love to instill that confidence with my passion into those paratroopers. It's a rush. It's great.
Drop and clear for personnel drop.
This week we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies.
I love the Army. It is a great place to set yourself up for success, to prepare yourself for the future.
God bless you, God bless our soldiers, and God bless the U.S. Army.
Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, Alaska is the home to America's Arctic Angels, who execute expeditionary operations worldwide, conduct multi-domain operations in the Indo-Pacific Theater and the Arctic, and on order decisively defeat any adversary in extreme cold weather, mountainous and high-latitude environments through large-scale combat operations. The Angels are the Army's only Arctic division. Masters of Arctic warfare, the 11th serves worldwide in all climates. Established in November of 1942, the Angels of the 11th Airborne Division led the way in the Philippines during World War II and spearheaded an amphibious invasion of Luzon and distinguished themselves during the liberation of Manila. After periods spent inactive and stationed in Germany from 1963 to 65, the division operated as the 11th Air Assault Division with the mission of testing and refining the Army's helicopter-centric air mobility doctrine. Activated once again in June of 2022, they remain dedicated to defending America's interests throughout the Arctic, in Alaska, and beyond. The 11th Airborne Division, America's Arctic Angels. Requiring ongoing maintenance in the field and on base because nothing happens until something moves, wheeled vehicle mechanics supervise and perform maintenance, repair, and recovery operations on vehicles that serve the Army in a variety of mission-critical roles. Included in the array of mobile artillery such as Paladins and the Abrams tank is the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle known as the JLTV. It's highly adaptable, providing protected and sustained mobility for personnel and payloads. The JLTV is known for its off-road capability while providing armor against small arms and improvised explosive devices. The JLTV, right there. strategic force to an operational force in response to the pressures of the war on terrorism. In the 170,000 Army Reserve soldiers and 11,000 civilians serving their home communities, and when needed, they can quickly mobilize. The Army can't deploy, they can't fight or win without the Army Reserve. They are an important component of Army readiness. Let's have a big hand for the Army Reserve. Today and tomorrow's Army looks to increase safety and survivability, create efficiency, and streamline processes. The Stryker is a great example of assessing evolving needs and developing the solution. Strykers provide a balance between heavy armor and infantry brigade and combat teams. When Americans hear the name Bastogne, they remember one of World War II's most heroic defenses, the Battle of the Bulge. Surrounded by German forces in the frozen forests of Belgium in December 1944, soldiers of the 101st Airborne held the line. unit before you is a platoon from the multi-purpose company 2nd Battalion, 327th Infantry Regiment, 1st Mobile Brigade, 101st Airborne Division, Bastogne. They are showcasing the Army's Transformation in Contact Initiative, a program that allows the Army to rapidly test, evaluate, and equip our soldiers with the newest technologies. Modern, mobile, and mission-ready, the Bastogne Brigade continues to adapt to new threats while staying rooted in the fierce resilience that defined its birth. They are carrying the next-generation squad weapons, the XM7 and XM250, both equipped with the XM157 optic. The vehicles are the infantry squad vehicle, a new mobility asset that can rapidly move through most terrain types. The trailer is the S-MET, and it's capable of carrying heavy loads under its own power through restrictive terrain. This platoon is equipped with 3 types of small unmanned aerial systems. They are the Ghost X, located on the S-MET, the C-100, and right above us there, the X-10D, which are flying above the formation right now. The Bradley fighting vehicle has proved itself to be lethal and survivable in multiple theaters since it first fielded back in the 1980s. Designed as a troop transport, tank killer, and to match speed with an Abrams tank, the Bradley is a fierce fighting machine. The Bradley accompanies American troops often with the M1A1 Abrams tank, nicknamed the Beast and Whispering Death because of its firepower, accuracy while moving, and its stealth. Together, they offer mobility and firepower, a fearsome combination. And high in the sky, the AH-64 Apache. It's the premier attack helicopter in the world. The Apache entered service in the mid-1980s and continues to evolve and modify to meet worldwide threats. It can deliver intense fire on the battlefield with an array of aerial rockets, guided Hellfire missiles, along with 30mm cannon fire. The aircraft you see here is configured with a sophisticated targeting radar system and can operate in poor visibility and in the black of night. With more than 1,280 aircraft in operation accumulating over 5 million flight hours, 1.3 million of which have been in combat, the AH-64 Apache represents the backbone of the U.S. Army's attack helicopter fleet and a growing number of international defense forces. Special thanks to our sponsor, Lockheed Martin. Now, let's roll on to the future of Army readiness. The Army Research Laboratory robot dogs reflect the latest in Army innovation. Look at this. Much like a true canine, these robots can go where soldiers cannot. They have increased mobility, improved tactical awareness, reduced risk to soldiers, and enhanced teamwork. Replacing soldiers, robot dogs can explore terrain that may be difficult for soldiers to traverse, dispose of explosive ordnance, and act in defensive posture or aggressive capacity when armed. The Ghost Robot Dog is another innovation that can adapt seamlessly for various missions from recon to bomb recognition. These dogs reduce risk and support soldiers completely in high-stakes missions. They have a standard walk speed of 2 miles per hour and are working towards 6.7 miles per hour sprint. As the oldest continuously serving Army band and the oldest unit at West Point, this is the United States Military Academy Band, ladies and gentlemen. The West Point Band traces its history to a single drummer and fifer appointed by George Washington during the American Revolution. Over the next 2 centuries, this band evolved into one of the most capable and versatile performing groups in the world. One of the most prestigious institutions in the world where leadership is forged and duty becomes destiny. This is West Point, where Army leaders are made. With the motto of duty, honor, and country, West Point trains the best and brightest to serve their country as Army officers. Founded back in 1802 by President Thomas Jefferson, West Point is the home of the Long Gray Line, a legacy of courage and excellence that includes 77 Medal of Honor recipients, 2 U.S. presidents, Grant and Eisenhower, and numerous generals, including John J. Pershing, Douglas MacArthur, and Norman Schwarzkopf. Upon entering the United States Army, all recruits undergo initial entry training, a highly intense and a challenging training period aimed at developing a soldier's physical and mental toughness, instill discipline, train them in essential combat skills, and foster teamwork. IET transforms civilians into soldiers based on the 7 core Army values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. The Virginia Military Institute, on a mission to produce citizen soldiers, men and women educated for civilian life, prepared to serve their country in the armed forces. VMI counts a Nobel Prize winner, 11 Rhodes Scholars, generals, 7 Medal of Honor recipients, and a Pulitzer Prize winner among its graduates. As one of the nation's senior military colleges, students at Virginia Military Institute can participate in Army ROTC or the Corps of Cadets. While cadets in the Corps can serve in any branch of the United States military or pursue other careers, those in Army ROTC earn their commission as officers, ready to serve on active duty in the National Guard or Army Reserve. Each year, the Army Senior ROTC Blue Ridge Battalion commissions approximately 130 second lieutenants, ensuring that excellence in leadership continues in generations to come. The Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina, offers students the opportunity to participate in Army ROTC or the Historic Corps of Cadets. Founded in 1842, the Citadel is the 3rd oldest of the senior military colleges and is known for its Corps of Cadets living and studying under a classical military system that makes leadership and character development essential. While military service is not required at graduation, more than 120 students earn their commission each year through the Army Senior ROTC Palmetto Battalion, playing a vital role in shaping the future. As one of the nation's senior military colleges, Texas A&M University is home to both Army ROTC and the renowned Corps of Cadets. The Corps of Cadets' central purposes has remained building individuals that exemplify respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service. Students at the university who participate in the Army ROTC earn their commission as officers ready to serve on active duty in the National Guard or Army Reserve. Each year, the Army Senior ROTC Warrior Training Battalion at Texas A&M proudly commissions more than 90 second lieutenants and is honored to shape the future leaders of the U.S. Army. In a powerful display of commitment, these future soldiers will raise their right hand and take an oath of enlistment, pledging to serve our nation. This joint formation is proudly led by the Joint Task Force, National Capital Region, and the Military District of Washington Retention Team. shaping tomorrow's Army. West Point's most inspiring cadets remind us that America's future is courageous and in capable hands.
The pride to serve my country knows that I'm doing it not for myself. Every day I put on the uniform, I'm not just representing Caroline Robinson. I'm representing my company here at the Academy. I'm representing West Point. I'm representing the United States Army, and ultimately, I'm representing the United States of America.
I really came to West Point because belief in the American dream and giving back to our country.
You're a part of something that is much bigger than yourself. You're a part of a tradition of excellence and a legacy that's connected not only to the Academy, but to the American Army.
I'm surrounded by people who want to make themselves better and serve our country.
Excellence is their baseline, and that to me is what it means to be a West Point cadet.
From the earliest days of our nation, this supreme tradition of American military service has been passed down from soldier to soldier and generation to generation, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
My brother preceded me here, and originally I didn't really know what West Point was until he came, but when I saw the mission that they were committed to, of upholding the principles of American democracy and protecting the Constitution, I knew it was somewhere I had to be.
Every time that we lived outside of the United States, I always developed this sense of gratitude and pride of being an American, and I wanted to give back to my country what it gave to me.
And it wasn't until I zipped up the blouse and I put the belt on for the first time that I realized that I was going to be serving my country, and it felt right. West Point was the place that I needed to be, and more importantly, the Army was where I wanted to be.
I just looked to the left and right over basic training and realized that we all had the same American patch on our shoulders, that we're all fighting for the same thing. I mean, there was no better feeling in the world knowing that every single person around you is committed and willing to die for that mission.
You came for excellence, you came for duty, you came to serve your country, and you came to show yourselves that you are among the smartest, toughest, strongest, most lethal warriors ever to walk on this planet.
What excites me the most about my future in the Army is the opportunity that I'm going to have to give back to the American soldiers that I'm going to be leading.
Because ultimately, they don't get to choose. And to me, it's that burden of responsibility to be the best leader.
And as a young officer, that's going to be exactly what I get to do.
I was the cadet basic training first detail for the first 3 weeks. And I got to see the new cadets come in from their families' homes and being in process on their very first day and watching them grow so quickly.
I would do all the formations, and I looked out at these 1,000 new cadets, people who just come out of high school. They were completely different people.
I don't think there's another institution in the country like West Point where the student body is so committed to furthering the mission of America and ensuring our democracy and freedom for generations to come.
I'm really surrounded by the best of the best, and that's when I realized this is a place that I absolutely want to be.
West Point itself is an amazing institution, but it only provides opportunities. The people here have to choose to take those opportunities and grow and lead and serve. And the people here want to do that. And I'm proud to be a part of that. And I would tell any high schooler who is considering it, you won't regret it.
Left. Pace. Mr. President, First Sergeant Norton reporting for duty, sir. Ready to commence the ceremony as directed.
I state your name.
I
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, congratulations. Welcome to the United States Army, and have a great life. Thank you very much. Have a great life. Thank you.
Ranger School is the best life insurance policy for our Army. It will always end with two people facing off with each other, and we need young leaders to be able to close with and destroy the enemy and defend our nation's interests forward.
Surrender is not a Ranger word. It's not an option.
I know that I'm not going to be able to get to do this again. This is my chance.
It all starts at the legendary Ranger School, the crucible where these elite warriors are forged. It has been described as the longest approved gut check in the Army. Over 62 days, students will patrol hundreds of miles over mountains and through swamps under the crushing weight of their equipment. All the while, they are deprived of both food and sleep, forced to perform at the very edge of their physical limits. But it's not just the physical challenges that make Ranger School so intense. The mental strain will break these soldiers down to their core.
If I have a come-to-God moment, I have to take my PC off my patrol cap. And on the inside of that, my commander gave me a Ranger tab, the yellow and black one that you get during graduation. And I pinned it to the inside of my PC.
Ranger School is not for the faint of heart, but for those who are up to the challenge, it is the ultimate proving ground.
They already didn't have enough beds for the people in our company. And our eyes reminded us that we don't have enough beds because there's not going to be this many people by tomorrow. Just a slight reminder that there's too many of you anyways, and not all of you are going to pass.
Rangers, if you don't figure it out, you're about to get another casualty.
It's completely different than what people would think Ranger School is like, but you can't put that into words, so it's hard to tell somebody something that you have to experience for yourself.
They got a saying, it's called as the tab turns. So Ranger School is continuing to change and to develop, but at the end of the day, it is the same, right? They're always going to put you in scenarios that is going to test like your ability to actually make decisions on the ground.
As you go through Ranger School, it is a gut check. It's going to check you out. And what's going to get you through it is whether you have it or not. Thousands and thousands of soldiers train all their lives to come here, prepare themselves to come to Ranger School, and only a few hundred leave here every class with the tab. It's not for everyone.
I'm not going to leave until I get it, so just buckle down, stop complaining, and just get the job done.
Please welcome country music sensation and proud supporter of our troops, Warren Ziders.
thank you. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm nervous, but I would just like to say thank you so much for having me here tonight. I am just so fortunate to be here in front of y'all, and thank you guys so much for what you guys do. And honestly, happy birthday, y'all. Happy birthday. This next song was loved by y'all, so if you know the words, please sing along. This song's called Ride the Lightning, y'all. I see you singing, my friend. We got one more chorus, y'all. Attended tonight. I just want to say thank you so much. And I'll leave y'all with this. I'm Warren Zatters, y'all. Thanks for having me. It has been my honor, ladies and gentlemen. I really mean that. Thank you so much. Happy birthday to the Army. Happy birthday to our President, Donald Trump. Amen, y'all. God bless America, baby!
This week we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. Each of you on the field today is among the most talented members of your generation. You could have done anything you wanted. You could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to any school. Matt's incredible heroism helped ensure that not a single American soldier died in the Battle of Shock Valley. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies. The dignity, daring, and devotion of the American military is unrivaled anywhere in history and any place in the world. Our soldiers do not rest until they win. Our citizens know that you're standing guard, killing terrorists, crushing our enemies, and keeping America safe. But you're also keeping it strong and proud and mighty and free. This week we remember that we only have a country because we first had an army. As President of the United States, let me express my undying gratitude for every soldier here today, for every veteran and their incredible families, and for every patriot who has worn the uniform. Our debt to you is infinite and everlasting. With the grace of God, America will always prevail.
Well, let me say to the thousands of Americans who traveled from distant towns and across state lines to be here today, this is your national capital. Welcome to Washington, D.C. We are thrilled to have you. This evening, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, the oldest branch of the greatest fighting force ever known to man, I want to say to all the soldiers all across our nation's capital and all across the world, happy birthday, soldiers. We're proud of you. And I want to say you represent an unbroken line of greatness, of excellence. And one of the things the President of the United States has told his entire administration, from the Vice President on down, is that we must remember that the young men and women who put on the uniform and serve this nation are our most precious resource. We must honor them, we must respect them, we must fight for them, and that's exactly what the Trump administration aims to do every single day. And so to our soldiers, we're so proud of you, and let me tell you that the way that we honor and respect you is, number one, we never ask you to go to war unless you absolutely have to. And number two, when we do ask you to go to war, we give you the weapons and the support needed to kick the hell out of the enemy and come back home safely. Now, I know I am the last thing standing between And that is a dangerous place to be with a lot of soldiers in the audience. So let me just say a couple of quick additional thoughts. First of all, June the 14th is, of course, the birthday of the Army. It is, of course, the birthday of the President of the United States. And happy birthday, Mr. President. But I would get in trouble if I didn't mention that it's also my wedding anniversary. And so to my lovely wife, I love you, honey. Happy anniversary. And thank you for everything that you do for our country. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief of the United States Military, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you to Vice President Vance, and thank you to our wonderful First Lady, and above all, thank you to the greatest, fiercest, and bravest fighting force ever to stride the face of this earth, the United States Army. Thank you very much. Because the Army keeps us free, you make us strong, and tonight, you have made all Americans very proud. They're watching from all over the world, actually. Made them all very proud. Every other country celebrates their victories. It's about time America did too. That's what we're doing tonight. And watching this magnificent display, our souls are filled with gratitude for every generation of warriors who have worn the uniform all the way back to the very beginning. So to every veteran across our land, and right here in our nation's capital, including 6 recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, we love you, we honor you, and we salute your noble service to our flag and to our country. As we celebrate tonight, we also think of the hundreds of thousands of Army soldiers who have made the supreme sacrifice for our nation and selflessly laid down their lives in every war, from the Revolution to the War on Terror. To the Gold Star families with us today, the courage of your heroes is the bedrock on which our entire nation stands. We thank you. Yes, we thank you. Today we commemorate an event that did not just change American history, but changed the history of the entire world. With the creation of America's Army on June 14th, 1775, liberty got its shield and the freedom got its sword. Those first Army patriots in the American Revolution fought against a fearsome enemy and impossible odds, but they were armed with a righteous cause. They were led by an indomitable commander, a truly great man, General George Washington, and they were united by an eternal creed. Their motto was victory or death. Over the past 2.5 centuries, our warriors have shown unrivaled valor on fields of battle around the globe. With the frostbitten feet and bloody fist, they have marched into the flames and fury of combat, charged up mountains, stormed beaches, waded through torrents of gunfire, and leapt into skies thick with smoke and shrapnel. The U.S. Army has driven bayonets into the heart of sinister empires, crushed the ambitions of evil tyrants. Beneath the threads of American tanks, it's done so well, it's done so much, and sent the devil himself flying into full retreat. Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain, your demise will be final. and your downfall will be total and complete. Because our soldiers never give up, never surrender, and never, ever quit. They fight, 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 and they win, win, win. And that's why no institution in history has entered more names into the roster of American heroes than the U.S. Army, the Congressional Medal of Honor, more than anyone or anything. There was Mad Anthony Wayne, asked by George Washington to lead a daring midnight raid up the cliffs of Stony Point with unloaded muskets and only their bayonets to fight the redcoats. Mad Anthony replied, "Issue the order, sir, and I will storm into hell for you." Then there was the Civil War general, John Corse, shot in the face in combat. He fired off a message to his commander: "I am short a cheekbone and one ear, but I am able to whip the hell out of all of them." He stayed on the front lines, it seemed forever. In World War II, there was the great Creighton Abrams, besieged on all sides by the Nazis at the Battle of the Bulge. He boldly proclaimed, "They've got us surrounded again, the poor bastards." This is the fighting spirit and unyielding force of the U.S. Army. It has never changed, and it will never, ever change, because there is no earthly force more powerful than the brave heart of a U.S. infantryman or an Army Ranger, paratrooper, or Green Beret. They are the best, they are the finest. From Bunker Hill to San Juan Hill, from Gettysburg to Guadalcanal, from Yorktown to Shiloh, and from the trenches of the Argonne to the mountains of Afghanistan, the Army has forged a legacy of unmatched courage, untold sacrifice, and unequaled and undying glory. Our soldiers have poured out their blood by the bucketful on Missionary Ridge and Heartbreak Ridge, on the sands of Sicily, Normandy, and the Philippines, and on the dusty streets of Da Nang, Baghdad, and Fallujah. Thanks to their extraordinary service and devotion, 250 years later, America stands tall, America stands proud, and America stands free. We're the hottest country in the world right now, and our country will soon be greater and stronger than ever before. Down through history, we've been blessed beyond words by this valiant legion of Army warriors and patriots, heroes and legends. And tonight we affirm with unwavering certainty that in the years ahead and in every generation hence, whenever duty calls and whatever danger comes, the American soldier will be there. No matter the risk, no matter the obstacles, our warriors will charge into battle. They will plunge into the crucible of fire, and they will seize the crown of victory, because the United States of America will always have the grace of Almighty God and the iron will of the United States Army. Congratulations to everybody. We love our country. We've never done better. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the Army, and God bless America. And now I'd like to ask our great First Lady to join me at the podium. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, on behalf of the United States Army, the Army Golden Knights, I would like to present to you this flag, which was flown over our nation's capital in free fall during the Army's 250th birthday celebration.
Worked for all my life, and I had to start again. Just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause our flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Happy birthday, Mr. President. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, Detroit to Houston, and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, sing it with me. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Light up your cell phone. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the United States Army. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, U.S. Army.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Army. Here.
Thank you so much for serving alongside my grandfather and my great-grandfather, for your service, for your country, for your family. And I just want to say thank you from a generation that may not have known your name, but I get to live in the freedom because of it.
I want to thank all the U.S. service members, men and women, and especially the Army for their 250th birthday. Thank you very much.
My grandpa served in the Army in World War II as part of the 82nd Airborne. Thank you, Army, for everything that you do.
My brother Rob and my son Alec both served in the U.S. Army. We thank you for your courage, your sacrifices, and the burdens that you may now carry.
Thank you so much for doing what you do, putting your lives on the line for other men like me to live the life I live.
And I just want to say happy birthday to the U.S. Army, congratulating them on 250 years. I want to give a big shout out to my Uncle Zadie, who served in the Army, and thank you for all you do.
I'm very thankful for the dedication and the hard work of the men and women of the U.S. Army.
Hi, American soldiers. Thank you for all you do. Love you.
Our freedom is not free, and we know that we are free because of you and your efforts.
Thank you to our Army active duty and veterans for protecting our rights and freedoms. Comes at an immeasurable cost.
I'm wishing you the best. Happy birthday. Go on.
Happy birthday, Army. Thank you to everybody who's serving today and has served in the past.
Love you guys and girls. Thank you so much for everything you do.
A big thank you to the men and women that serve our country and everything you guys do for us.
Thank you, Army, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Army.
Happy birthday, Army.
Happy 250th.
When I raised my right hand, I swore an oath to every generation before me. I wear the same branch insignia as the soldiers who crossed the Delaware. Before there was a nation, there was an army.
We've seen what division costs.
I serve because unity is worth the fight.
I carry that legacy forward every time I put on this uniform.
Both of my grandfathers served in the Second World War. They answered the challenges of their time, and it is my goal in this uniform to answer and meet the challenges of my time head on.
And there you have the 250th Army Parade getting prepared to wrap up. We're going to keep an eye on it as it does continue to unfold. The grand finale of the fireworks and the President speaking along with the First Lady. Darren, you were out there. Talk to us about what it was like on the when you were there right at the risers.
Yeah, you could sense the energy. People were. I was right there, kind of at the beginning when people started showing up. It was pretty exciting to see everybody just. They were happy to be there, even though there was this forecast of rain. Everybody's like, "We don't care. We're showing up. We're going to stick through it all." They were excited to see everything, and I think there was a lot of energy that people didn't anticipate, maybe, who don't like Trump so much. But it was fun. It was fun to watch everybody, because a lot of them came up and talked to us too.
And Chuck, when it comes to watching this parade, you have some detractors being like, oh, they weren't marching to the beat. Talk to us about why maybe that was.
Well, when you march to the beat, it really helps to either have someone calling cadence loudly or have a band. And you march, the left foot hits the ground when that big drum goes boom. Well, the problem is you got close to the reviewing stand, they were playing loud, concert-loud, contemporary music. And it was cool for the crowd. And I'm thinking, those poor guys, they were probably told they couldn't call cadence because it would then compete with the music. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, how could you do it? Because it's not easy, to keep your cadence when you don't have that beat that you can hear. And it's virtually impossible, as we see, if you have like rock music playing at the same time.
Darren, as somebody retired from the Army who was actually, flying helicopters in combat, what do you think this type of day means for an Army veteran?
Well, it's important that, first of all, for those of us who are retired, I would say it's important for us to be able to look back on this from the semblance of history and say this is cool because, from a personal perspective, my first unit in the Army was the Old Guard, who led off the parade, and then my last one was the 4th Infantry Division, where I retired from. And everything, regardless of the military, seems to be tied to history. We are very aware of our culture, our history, our background, and we want to be able to share that with the American people who, their taxes fund the military, and the military, of course, protects their freedom and liberty, and that's the goal, is to show them America is part of, or the military is part of the American culture. We are the American culture, and I think it's awesome that the Army met its recruiting goals months early because of the change that has happened, and this can help with that.
On that note, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was saying this morning, without 1775, when the Army was born, you wouldn't have 1776 when the country was born. Right. So Chuck, after this parade and seeing that we've already surpassed the recruitment numbers this year, what are you expecting for the rest of this year?
So there's a couple of huge issues about this. So first of all, about $2 billion a year is spent on recruiting. This parade cost, I think, a little over $40 million, so about 2% of the recruiting budget. So when you put that into context, this 250th birthday celebration parade will do far more than that huge recruiting budget. That's number one. Number two, the Army and most other services were not hitting their recruiting goals in the last several years. As a result, they lowered their standards, and that's how they were able to get more people in. Now, when you have a surplus of people coming in and wanting to join, you can increase the standards because you can't take everybody that wants to join. That's really important because war is getting more complicated, more technical. You look at Ukraine, obviously their forces are very different, but 1 out of every 5 soldiers in Ukraine now is a UAV driver. They're driving drones. 1 out of every 5.
Chuck, to Darren's point as well about how our military, our Army is a big part of the culture, and to Tiff's question, this wasn't just, from my observation, a show of American might and American force. It was also a historic lesson. I mean, we witnessed the Old Guard. We saw, the oldest regular Army infantry unit in their attire, Revolutionary era uniforms.
Right.
important is it to remember our history through our military?
Well, I think it's very important because, again, the Army especially ties in with the history of the nation very tightly. There's only a few things that you can think of where it was exclusively like a Navy and Marine Corps event, like, for example, the war against the Barbary Pirates or something like that. So it's important because I don't believe the young of today are taught as much of that history. And for people thinking about joining up, you become a part of history by enlisting or becoming an officer in the Army or any of the contingents in the armed services.
And Darren, on that note, we didn't just see, the historical uniforms. They also had the future of warfare with the little robot dogs, and we saw some drones flying around. I'm sure those were DJI drones from China. But that aside, what do you make of modern or the future of warfare, given the current conflicts we're seeing, the Russia-Ukraine war continuing, of course, right now with Iran and Israel? How are you viewing this parade in conjunction with the actual global events?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty about studying history and the patterns of history, because it's a teacher. And the teaching that we have gotten out of the studying these kinds of conflicts in this same way leads us to be able to make conclusions about what the future of warfare looks like. How do I know that? 20 years ago, I began a project that I started writing about the future of warfare. 5 years later, based on that research, I wrote a master's thesis called The Children of Aphrodite. And I said that drones, artificial intelligence, mass production of cheap lethal weapons is the wave of the future, and that was in 2010. And now I get to see it actually come to fruition, not always in a good way, but places like Ukraine, Russia, even Israel, Iran, and the greater Middle East, what's going on with China, and even within our own borders, have proven that theory then is turning into a fact. And we can show the people that are watching this parade that we're adapting to future conflicts now.
I mean, speaking of adapting, the whole parade started a bit early today, so Army is very good at adapting. But Chuck, what do you make of, the future of warfare from what we saw today and the current conflicts?
Yeah, well, it's exactly as my colleague just said, right? I mean, we are seeing this incredible increase in lethality and really a reduction in cost insofar as the ability to cause damage. Artificial intelligence is going to drive that significantly. From a greater economical standpoint, America needs to more than double its electricity output for us to maintain our lead in artificial intelligence. And the other interesting thing that our enemies should really take pause about, which is that while we could be very well vulnerable because of our openness to this sort of kind of a Pearl Harbor-like attack using drones like you saw with Ukraine against Russia and Israel against Iran, the big difference is that those nations were already in a state of conflict with each other. So if someone were to try to do that with the U.S. and we were to discover it, well, that would be a casus belli. That would be a reason for us to go to war. But number two, Americans are really good at adapting. We're really good because of our capitalist system, because of our freedom and our liberty. We're good with chaos, much more so than most other cultures. I would argue any other culture. It's our nature. And so the essence of war is chaos. And if you think of these drones even amplifying that, I think that America is well positioned to dominate the future of warfare because of our attributes as a nation.
And Chuck, one of the narratives that is out there right now, people referring to when President Trump in his first presidency as 45 floated the idea of a military parade, that one of the generals may have said that such parades are for dictators. And so you're seeing, this narrative right now and this being highlighted. Respond to that narrative, but also tell us about why this might be important for other reasons.
Yeah, so when you think about it, it's been, 34 years since we've had a military parade. It was the end of the Gulf War in 1991. I had been in the Army by that point for 8 years. And to think that then for even longer in the rest of my career, there was no parade because, of course, we were fighting the global war on terror. And when could you declare victory? I think you could almost say when an embarrassing defeat happened, and that was the pullout from Afghanistan. No one's going to do a parade about that. So I think the president's instincts were right on. The need to have some sort of a recognition of the importance of the Army or any of the services, the importance of service, the importance of patriotism. And in this case, it was just perfect in coming together. The 250th birthday, some 13 months from now, is the 250th birthday of America, so this is a great warm-up for that. And I think that you're going to see a resurgence in patriotism among Americans because of this unapologetic, unembarrassed display of the military during this wonderful parade.
Darren?
Yeah, this is not just a military parade, this is an American parade. It just happens to have military marching in it. And yeah, obviously it's the Army's 250th birthday, but this is a parade of patriotism. That's really what this is about. And we need to be able to show strength, we need to be able to show unity, we need to be able to show everybody watching that we're still American. No matter what we've gone through, Americans always do hard things and do them well, even if it is sometimes chaos. And we thrive in that. There's still a lot of work to do, though. There are 80,000 members of the military who were negatively impacted because of the attacks on them personally by various aspects of the chain of command during the COVID and following during the Biden administration. That needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed quickly because the veteran community thrives on trust. So we need to turn this energy into fixing the issues that have been caused and apologizing to these service members and rectifying the situation depending on what works best for them and their families.
And Chuck, of course, we did hear from President Trump today, maybe a bit shorter than the normal speeches we're used to, but Trump did speak about restoring pride in our national heritage. How do you think events like this one today shape what it means to be an American today?
Well, these events, of course, are very visual, right? And TV is a very visual medium. And so not only did you have large crowds at this event, but a lot of Americans watch this at home. And so again, it's like this event, this national event that people remember, that they'll come to recognize as like, hey, 250 years, that's a long time. And the fact that we're like ramping up now to the 250th anniversary celebration of the nation. I was about 13 and 14 years old during our bicentennial. And I remember as a kid, the enthusiasm and the excitement that I felt. You know, I was collecting stamps and the coins that came out and all these crazy things regarding the bicentennial. It was an amazing time to learn about our history and to have patriotism amped up and restored, especially because, as you recall, that was just after the loss in Vietnam.
Special thanks to Scott's Miracle Grow and all of the
Darren, obviously you've been overseas. You've seen many situations, many militaries. You've studied many militaries. What is it that separates the United States military from, say, some of the most powerful militaries across the globe?
Well, the first thing we do is we take an oath to a constitution and not to a person. And it's not just a piece of paper, it is the principles that are outlined in that Constitution that we seek to support no matter what. And people can have debates all day long about whether a war is merited or not, but we're not the ones who choose to go. We go when Congress sends us. That debate's for somebody else to have. But that's what's one of the things that separates us, is our ability to focus on principles over people. And the second thing is our model of leadership. We have been copied by other nations. We've taken lessons from other nations in the process too. But the ability of us to just build in initiative at every rank into every soldier and say, we expect you to step out and lead. Even if you've been in the military 6 months or less, you're going to have the opportunity to lead. You have to take it and prove who you are. And we've gotten away from some of that a little bit. We got to get back to merit-based promotions, but we are still by far the most superior military on earth because of how we do the leadership thing. And our non-commissioned officers, our sergeants and the equivalent in other services, bar none, that's what makes the American military win. No other nation can do that.
And on that note, Darren, you know, the president was emphasizing the military's unmatched strength and might. Given the current conflicts, does this parade send that real message to adversaries like Iran and China?
Well, I think this parade also combined with the real actions that we've been taking in at least the first 100 days of the Trump presidency. Some have worked out well, maybe some not so well, and or to be determined. But when you show this with the strength and purpose and resolve, and the Department of Defense being refocused on lethality and winning wars, you put all that together into a package and show not just that we have a superior military, but that we're willing to use it, don't want to use it. Someone's paying attention, and I hope they're learning. And because the goal is never to have to ever go to war.
And to that point, Darren, I do want to play a clip of now Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth sharing his thoughts in terms of meritocracy and warrior ethos. Let's play that.
We have set 3 priorities for the department: restore the warrior ethos, rebuild our military, and reestablish deterrence. We are setting standards that are high, equal, and unwavering. DEI is dead. We replaced it with a colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based approach.
So, Chuck, I think DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion policies that the previous administration really injected into the military, is obviously the shiny object there. Has the military met their goal of focusing more on meritocracy and warfighting?
Yeah, this is going to take a cultural shift. There was a very unfortunate trend that happened in the wake of the Vietnam War where the feeling was that the top leadership needed to get more connected with America. And so you saw this emphasis on civilian postgraduate education. So most of your generals in the active force then have gone off to the Ivies or other four-year schools. The thought being like, if they see us, maybe they'll love us. You know, can't you just like us, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what ended up happening is you spent more time studying theory and academics than warfighting. And so what I've noticed as a National Guard officer, right, is that viewing from a bit of a distance, I noticed that my active duty counterparts, as they got higher in rank, got further and further to the left politically because they became more political generals than warriors. And I think that we need to really take a look about the post-secondary or the postgraduate education that you see among our leaders, in that, do we really want them going to get the equivalent of a PhD at Harvard? I don't think so. I think we want them to have a PhD in death and destruction is what I think we want them to have a PhD in.
To that point, Darren, talk to us about, there's, folks that will say that once you reach a certain rank or a certain point in the military, whether it's 2-star or a certain rank of general, that things do become very political. How to keep politics out of the military, and how prominent would you say that is?
I've worked in a lot of places where there's a lot of generals, including headquarters in Afghanistan, where you couldn't, shake a stick and not hit one. It's very politicized, and in some ways it's because the general officers themselves have chosen to be that way in order to help themselves advance through the ranks. So that's out of self-interest. And at times it's because of the constraints and requirements put on them by Congress, who wants to use the military often as sort of an experiment to see if they can achieve certain goals through that process. That's why DEI eradication is so critical. And not only the acronym, but the reality of what that pushed into the military seeped into every rank. And now it's just getting renamed in many cases, unfortunately, and looks remarkably the same in certain areas. So it's a cultural shift, as has been mentioned. It's going to take some time. But the politics, it's going to take a merit-based approach to promotions, and that merit is based upon their ability to show their capability to fight and win on any battlefield, modern or otherwise, and that be the focus, not whether or not you've checked the right boxes, gone to the right college, rubbed elbows with the right people. This isn't a return of favor system. You need to prove something, because most of the people who've proven themselves retired a lot earlier than general officer.
You're seeing that shift, say, also in the colleges. The Supreme Court was ruling as well, where maybe you are seeing that return to merit-based in at least the education system. As you're talking about earlier, Chuck, because we have already surpassed the recruitment numbers, Do you see maybe a more friendly competition for people to get those merit-based roles because you do now have too many people?
Yeah, so I mean, there's certainly a difference between raising your standards for new recruits and then the ongoing military education process, as well as, again, the culture of the environment. Let me give you one very quick illustration that for me was terribly troubling and very demoralizing, which was that in the wake of January 6, 2020, there were these claims, false claims, by the way, that military and veterans were overrepresented among the people arrested. In fact, they were slightly underrepresented. What the people doing the math forgot is we don't have child soldiers, so you have to remove everyone 0 to 18, and that men are far more likely to be veterans than women. Of course, men are far more likely to do stupid things than women too. So if you look at violent crime, men are overrepresented. So once you calculate for that, the military was underrepresented. And then you look at what happened. What happened was our Secretary of Defense declared a one-day stand down to discuss white extremism and basically said, look to your left, look to your right, one of the people is probably some sort of right-wing extremist nut. Do you realize how corrosive that is to morale and to re-enlistment and to just good order and discipline? I mean, that's just crushing as far as your spirit. That's the attitude that the people who were working for the previous administration and on up through into the White House carried with them about our military. And it was despicable and frankly, something that should never be repeated in the future.
It sounds like that would also erode brotherhood and camaraderie.
Absolutely it does, because if you're in the Army, for example, everyone's green. Doesn't matter what your faith is, where you come from, the color, the immutable characteristics of you. You can either do the mission or you can't. You can be trusted or you can't. You either have courage in the face of danger or you don't. These are things that are really pretty black and white. And none of those things include what the color of your skin is or how you worship your Creator, right? And that's where I think that the Biden and his ilk got this thing very, very wrong. And here's the last thing. Unlike colleges, who we would want to have be merit, based on merit, in this case, if you don't get it right, people die and battles are lost.
And on that note, as we do celebrate service members today, it's important to note that service members don't serve alone. It's also important to show appreciation for our military families, but there is one honor that no family hopes to receive, the Gold Star. The Gold Star designation is given to a family member who has lost a loved one in the line of duty. The title is meant to honor the service member's ultimate sacrifice while acknowledging their family's loss, grief, and continued healing.
And earlier, I did have a chance to speak with Patty Elliott, National President of American Gold Star Mothers, about her son, Army Reserve Specialist Lucas Elliott, and what today's anniversary means to her. Patty Elliott, thank you so much for taking some time for us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's great to have you with us. Patty, tell us about your son and ultimately how you remember him now.
So Lucas was very much my adventurous, adrenaline junkie child. He shot on a high-powered rifle team. That was his passion. And so he was surrounded by veterans at all times from the time he was 12 years old on. So his passion for the military was fostered by those men and women that he shot with. And so that's something that he wanted to do from an early age.
Really amazing. What did joining the U.S. Army and serving his country mean to him?
So we were a homeschool family, and we sat and watched the events of September 11th unfold on TV, like many Americans. And I think that lit a fire for him, that as you saw the stories of men and women who joined the military so that they could make sure that this never happened to America again, his passion grew also. We were always a patriotic family, but we didn't have a long history of military service in our background. So it was something that he learned and acquired that desire for at a young age. It meant the world to him.
What does it mean to you to be a Gold Star mom, and what does that really feel like? I imagine it brings very mixed emotions.
It does. So I was very involved with Lucas's life. I was the family readiness group leader for his unit. So I had that passion of 200 kids who were deployed with Lucas, who all felt that same desire to serve our country. So it was something that I knew I had to be strong and continue on for them and their families because they were still in the heat of the battle immediately after Lucas died. The community of Gold Star mothers gave me that safe spot to land. When you walk in a room and everyone else is similarly situated to you, you don't have to say a word. You just look at each other and understand. What being in this organization has given me, though, is a way to continue to honor his service and his legacy and ensure that that sacrifice is not forgotten. The way I look at it is God was done with Lucas. His mission is complete, but every day that he allows me to wake up, there's still more to accomplish in this world, and advocating for our veterans and our military is no better way to make sure that I complete that mission.
What role would you say your faith has played in, your journey of moving through grief and coming to really lead the American Gold Star Mothers, a nonprofit that honors, the legacy of Lucas and so many other fallen service members?
I've always felt like I am a Christian, grew up in church, but I believe that my faith is much stronger after Lucas's death, simply because I know that Lucas, so the morning that they went out on mission that ultimately Lucas died, he gathered everyone around that morning and said, "Hey, y'all, let's pray before we go out." And Lucas was not usually the one that did that. So the other folks on his team told me that, and that just struck a chord with me. So I have absolutely no doubt where my son is. And I know that my faith needs to remain strong and continue to grow so that I can be sure that I see him again one day.
We're celebrating the 250th birthday of the United States Army, the Army that made the founding of this great nation and its freedoms possible. What does it mean to you to see the Army being celebrated in this way?
I think it's fabulous. I'm so excited for all of the festivities. Our men and women, America's children, have been sacrificing for our country for hundreds of years, and it's only fitting that we celebrate that. These men and women still, every single day, that they put on the uniform and go out there and do what their country asks of them, for us and our freedoms and our safety. We owe them a huge debt. It's something that not all of us are able or equipped or willing to do, and so we need to celebrate them.
Gold Star mom, Patty Elliott, really appreciate your joining us.
And as we just heard, military families shoulder a quiet burden. On that note, Chuck, how do we recognize the sacrifices that extend beyond the front lines?
Well, I think it's just important to stop and think about these sacrifices when you see a soldier, when you find out someone's been a veteran, because in our culture, because of this vast land and because of the reduction in the forces after the end of the Cold War and the pretty big reduction in the active duty, the closing of various bases, you have large stretches of the country where you never really see anyone in uniform. Occasionally, maybe a National Guard or reservist or something. And so the other thing that's happening is military service is becoming more and more of a family tradition, something carried on by the sons and daughters of people who have served. And so there's a growing distance, I think, between the mass of civilians who don't have any history of service. And so that's one of the reasons why parades like this are so important, is I think it reminds the American public that we have this force of people who give up some of their own freedom and liberty to put on the uniform and train and learn discipline to become lethal, which is not exactly a natural human tendency to do, to be able to do what? To protect and preserve our Constitution and the broad nation as a whole.
And Darren, to that point, you know, the theme of this parade was the Army's motto, which is "This we'll defend." So with that said, what makes America worth defending in the eyes of those who decide to serve?
What makes America worth defending is because in the end we're defending the future for our families, our kids, our grandkids, and on into future generations, because we want them to enjoy the same kind of liberty that we enjoyed as military service members, as people of our age, whatever that may look like. And all I can say is because of that, to those people who are asking what is it they can do based on all the people who are serving on their behalf, is be the kind of person and live the kind of life that is worthy of the sacrifice of others that were on your behalf. If you do that, whether that be a big brother, big sister, serving in a church, serving the elderly, getting involved in politics, whatever that may be, that's enough. You don't need to be some national figure to go out and to pay back for the service that's been done on your behalf. I would just say, don't look for a hero. Be one.
Now, leading up to this parade, President Trump was referencing a conversation that he had with the French President Emmanuel Macron about how, he was telling President Trump that he has their annual parade to celebrate the victory of World War II, and the president said, "Wait a second, I thought we might have had a hand in that as well." And earlier today, I want to play a soundbite of President Trump talking about America celebrating its victories.
Every other country celebrates their victories. It's about time America did too. That's what we're doing tonight. And watching this magnificent display, our souls are filled with gratitude for every generation of warriors who have worn the uniform all the way back to the very beginning. So to every veteran across our land, and right here in our nation's capital, including 6 recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, we love you, we honor you, and we salute your noble service to our flag and to our country.
So, Chuck, back to the history lesson that we're talking about, sort of taking that trip down our historical past when it comes to some major conflicts. What, I guess, purpose does it serve as we not just remember, but also educate?
Yeah, well, again, I think the purpose of it is to understand that freedom isn't free, and that there are requirements for people to don the uniform and to learn how to do very difficult things and serve under excruciatingly difficult circumstances so that this nation might continue to prosper, might continue to go forward. And it is a reminder that this isn't just notional, it's not just theoretical. These sorts of things happen from time to time in our history where we have a threat and we need to eliminate the threat, and the way you do that is with the military. And so I think it's very important for Americans to be reminded of that from time to time, because if you look at, for example, 9/11, yeah, it was broadcast right into everyone's home on 9/11. But then subsequently, as the war ground on for 20 years, you had this low-level, counterinsurgency operation with, thankfully, not a lot of casualties, right? If you look at Vietnam, you had more than 10 times the number of dead during Vietnam in a shorter period of time. And so a lot of Americans, again, because the military has become kind of a family affair, a lot of Americans were insulated after the initial 9/11 attacks. They didn't know anyone in service. They didn't know anyone who went overseas. And so by reminding the country of these, massive conflicts that we've been involved in the past and our victories, I think it's a very important lesson to, again, remind Americans of their past greatness, because we may be called again to be great on the field of battle.
And on that note, in today's environment, what meaning does the Army's model of "This will defend" take on?
Well, again, it's about First of all, the Constitution, of course. And it's about what the Constitution enables, which is that the whole point of our government is to secure liberty. Well, to have liberty secured, if that's your purpose, well, then you can't have chaos internally and you can't have threats externally. And that's why you have to have the armed forces. And so when I think of this will defend, I think of my home, I think of my wife back home, my daughters, I think of my colleagues at work, I think of future generations, and I think of them living under the benefit of our Constitution that allows them to experience the God-given rights that they have because they're human.
And Darren, do you think following today's parade, as Chuck was mentioning, it does seem this has become more of a family affair where some are just Army or military families and the rest of the nation, you see the protests, which seem to be really pushing back. Right. Do you think with parades like this and the sacrifices that we see these people and their families have to bear, do you think there'll be maybe a more installation of patriotism back in the public?
I hope so. I come from one of those military families. I did 28 years. My brother did 28 years. My dad did 32. Grandfather fought in World War II in the Philippines. It is a family business. And we have always been the servant-minded people. And I also think it's very important that when we study the history of the U.S. Army as it relates to also the overall American history, that it's important that we remind people that 250 years is actually not very old. And we have the benefit of living under one Constitution, which is unique in all of history. And that's why that freedom requires eternal vigilance and constant protection of the American Constitution and its principles, because it is still so young and it has been tested so many times that we have to keep doing that. And if it becomes a family affair for many, so be it. One of the challenges of Afghanistan, though, and Iraq, was that it went on for so long that we went from being a nation at war to a military at war while a nation moved on. Not all of it, but too much of it. World War I sent us a message, or World War II was a message about how the nation can decide whether or not a war is worth it, and everybody gets behind it. In Afghanistan, that eventually stopped. By and large. And if we have to do this again, I hope the entire nation can get behind it, despite the fact that we have people who prefer to protest rather than support.
Well, we are extremely grateful to have two retired Army colonels with us tonight on a very special 250th birthday of the United States Army. It's really excellent commentary from both of you, and thank you both for your service and for joining us tonight. That does conclude our coverage of the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary parade. On behalf of NTD, we'd like to thank all of our veterans and service members for their bravery and sacrifice. And a big thank you to our viewers for tuning in this evening. From our Washington, D.C. studio, I'm Steve Lance.
And I'm Tiffany Meier, and wish you all have a good night.
My name is Steve Lance, and